What up, Space Fam? Goes in here from Anime Uproar, back at it again to discuss One Piece. I've had many requests to update my all Mythical Zoans video in light of recent hype events in the story, so here I am to update the most hype category of Devil Fruits. Not only will I be updating some existing entries since we got more information about them, I'll also be adding 2 Mythical Zoans to the list, including the most hype Devil Fruit of all time, so make sure to stay tuned for that. I also published a more general all zone users and their powers explained video before, which you can check out as well, link in the description, but this one will be a more updated version for Mythical Zoans in particular. If you do enjoy these One Piece videos, especially these longer ones, and want to keep them coming, the best thing you could do is channel the Power King within and smash that like button with no mercy. If you haven't, make this the video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications, or you will miss future One Piece videos. And if you're new to the Nakama, let me know by saying hi below in the comments and leaving your favorite Mythical Zoan fruit. Lastly, while you wait for the next One Piece video to drop, feel free to check out my huge growing One Piece playlist that includes videos on all the Yonko, Warlords, and many more. The full playlist can be found in the description. Now, without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. Let's start things off with one of Blackbeard's 10 Titanic commanders, Crescent Moon Hunter Catarina Devon. She ate the Inu Inu no Mi model QB no Kitsune. For Pokemon and Naruto fans, it's pretty much the 9-tailed fox fruit, and in the Viz manga, it is called the Dog fruit mythical type model 9-tailed fox. Devon is 36 years old after the time skip, and her current bounty is unknown, but we do know that she's a whopping 11 foot 10 inches tall, or 361 centimeters. She can use her fruit to transform into a 9-tailed fox, and perhaps more interestingly, she can use the power to transform herself into anyone and impersonate them. During chapter 925, we saw the fruit in action when she used it against Gecko Moria, tricking the latter into thinking that Absalom was still alive. She does transform back after it's revealed that Absalom is dead and that Shiryu stole his clear fruit. It's the best fruit for disguising yourself as someone else because it allows the user to transform their clothes as well, unlike the clone fruit. That covers Devon and the 9-tailed fox fruit for now. We haven't seen a lot of it so far, but we're sure to learn more about this interesting mythical fruit as the story progresses. For number 2, we got the corrupted shogun of Wano, Kurozumi Orochi, and his Hebi no Mi model Yamato no Orochi, another fruit that might remind you of Naruto, specifically of Orochimaru. Its English name is the snake fruit model Yamato no Orochi, and it's based on an 8-headed serpent / dragon in Japanese mythology. This fruit lets Orochi transform into a giant 8-headed serpent. We've seen that Orochi can easily grab and trap a person within the jaws of one of his serpent heads. Having 8 heads also lets you attack multiple people at once, which is useful. The fruit, as many of us predicted, also lets you survive being beheaded. One mythical parallel of Yamato no Orochi is the Hydra in Hercules, and most of us may remember that cutting off one of its heads never did the trick. In fact, in that example, multiple heads would grow back to replace the first. At one point, Kaido beheads Orochi, which wasn't that surprising. After all, why would such a strong figure want to keep someone as annoying, cowardly, and proud as Orochi around longer than necessary? Later, Orochi recovered somehow and then ran into the Red Scabbards. Fukurokuju informed him that the Red Scabbards didn't even know that he'd already died once at Kaido's hand. What might have been a crazy reveal to them ended up being an anticlimactic but hilarious revenge. After Orochi transformed into his 8-headed form and arrogantly talked about how he would finish off the injured Red Scabbards, the Scabbards went on to slice off all of his heads effortlessly, commenting on how they have no time to waste on the likes of Orochi. Now, this is as far as we got when I dropped the previous Mythical Zoans video. At that point, we weren't 100% sure Orochi would survive having all of his heads taken off, but I mentioned it wouldn't be surprising if he did, considering his Mythical Zoan fruit. And as if to not disrespect a Mythical Zoan, Oda did in fact have Orochi survive even those multi-beheadings. It seems like Hanjiro's flame finally took him out in the latest chapter, and for him to finally die, Hiyori had to neutralize his Mythical Zoan power with the help of Sea Prism Stone nails. In the end, the Yamato no Orochi is a very interesting fruit with unique abilities like most Mythical Zoan fruits. I honestly don't even know what, if anything, would have killed him if Hiyori didn't neutralize his fruit powers, but cool fruits don't always go to cool or even strong characters, and this is one of those times. Although I found the fruit fascinating, Orochi himself was definitely not worthy of the mythical fruit. For number 3, let's look at a character who is definitely worthy of his Mythical Zoan fruit, Dr. Marco the Phoenix. Marco is as legendary as Yonko commanders come. He was the right-hand man to Whitebeard, the man called the strongest in the world, and the closest to the One Piece. He's currently 45 years old and his birthday is in October like mine. Coincidence? I think not. He's 6 foot 8 inches tall, which is almost like me, like a bit taller, but almost like me. And his bounty is 1.374 billion berries, a bounty bigger than Queen's impressive bounty of 1.32 billion berries. So even among Yonko commanders, his bounty is top tier. Although, since the last video, it was revealed that King actually had a higher bounty at 1.39 billion. How crazy is it that an injured Zoro beat a dude with a higher bounty than Marco? Absolutely insane to think how far our crew has come. And yeah, people will be like, bro, it's not all about bounty, you can't determine strength based off of solely bounty. And I know, but you can't just ignore the hype around bounties either. I'm just saying. Of course, Marco the Phoenix has the Phoenix fruit, more specifically the Tori no Mi model Phoenix or the Bird fruit model Phoenix. Another way to translate it is as immortal bird, another hype detail about the mythical fruit. Back in chapter 553, we first saw Marco use his ability and it was to deflect an admiral's attack no less, without breaking a sweat. Marco's fruit allows him to adopt the properties of a phoenix or to straight up fully transform into a blue phoenix. Marco's blue flames allow him to heal himself or others. This is one of the reasons that the immortal bird translation is so apt, because Marco can seemingly heal from otherwise lethal wounds using blue flames. It's like an enhanced Logia, because Marco can take hits as if they just went through him, but in his case, he could also use the blue flames to heal from Haki infused attacks as well. As mentioned, Marco could block Admiral Kizaru's attack, and he also successfully blocked Admiral Akainu's attack as well during the Paramount War, and he would later have no lasting damage, showing just how superior this fruit is to Ace's Flame fruit, which was easily defeated by Akainu. He was able to use his fruit for a while to also hold his own while fighting against King and Queen at the same time. Two Yonko commanders with both confirmed bounties over a billion berries. Obviously, this doesn't mean he could actually beat them both at the same time, and Perospero pointed out that he looked exhausted, but it's still very impressive. Considering how good of a fighter Marco is in battle, it's all the more impressive that he can be just as helpful when it comes to healing others. He's used his flames to help heal others, and more specifically, he's used them as a way to help prevent the further spread of Queen's virus in many people. Notably, Marco's flames won't burn you as they burn like conventional flames, but they can definitely be used to reinforce the power of his attacks, so the OP power comes with both offensive, defensive, and healing capabilities. Notably, Oda has told us that Marco's healing has limitations in a question corner, so he's not necessarily immortal in his Phoenix form. It's quite likely that if Marco drains all his stamina, he won't be able to use his healing powers, which might explain why he sometimes leaves minor wounds like scratches or bruises unhealed in battle. Another way that Marco could definitely be killed is if you exposed him to Sea Stone. Then he won't be able to use his regeneration on mortal wounds. It should be said that Marco's forces fought against Blackbeard's forces in the Payback War about a year after the Paramount War, and Marco's side was obliterated. Even so, Marco made it out fine without suffering lasting wounds thanks to his Phoenix powers. But I think that's enough about Marco for the purposes of this video. His mythical fruit is one of my favorites, and though it has its limits, it's let Marco at the very least exchange blows with many of the best fighters in the world without taking any lasting damage. Next up, we have Kaido, the leader of the Beast Pirates and the man called the strongest creature in the world. Kaido's bounty is over 4.6 billion berries, meaning among the living Yonko he has the highest bounty, but probably not for long, as we'll get into later on in the video. So the question was, for a long time, what exact devil fruit did Kaido have? What mythical zone is worthy of going to the leader who stands at the apex of the animal kingdom that is the Beast Pirates? There were theories that he had a straightforward dragon fruit, even theories that he was a dragon who had a kind of human fruit. But during chapter 999, Big Mom revealed that on the day rocks fell into ruin at God Valley, she gave Kaido a legendary model of the fish fruit. And she even says, because of that, Kaido owes her his life. That's how big of a favor this fruit was in her view. The official name for the legendary mythical fish fruit was given to us in a data book, and it was the Uo no Mi model Seryu, or the fish fruit model Seryu. The Seryu is an azure dragon, and if this at first confuses you how a fish fruit can turn into a dragon, just think of Magikarp and Gyarados in Pokemon. Gyarados too is based off of the Japanese Seryu, which is in turn based off of a Chinese myth. Specifically, there's a Chinese Dragon Gate myth, where there is a giant waterfall, and if a carp is able to persevere and make it all the way to the top of the practically impossible to climb waterfall, it will become a dragon. I'd like to think that Kaido's dragon form is a sign that he was skilled enough and worked hard enough to awaken the fruit, and usually the user of this fruit starts off as a kind of weak Magikarp rather than a majestic dragon. This isn't confirmed, and if it does start off as a Magikarp fruit, then the question arises, can it allow its user to actually swim, despite the usual devil fruit curse? But that's a topic for a completely different video. And back to the question if this is a fitting fruit for the world's strongest creature, it definitely seems to be, since Eastern dragons like this one were often considered to be extremely powerful and were even worshipped as gods. It's almost like we'd need another godly fruit to take down such a powerful fruit user. But back to Kaido's specific powers. We often see him transform into his Azure Dragon form, and more or less recently, we've even got to see his hybrid form, which is accompanied by a very cool tail. Overall, I really like the aesthetics of his hybrid form. Up to very recently, Kaido's dragon form was the biggest zone transformation we've seen, and in this form he absolutely dominates the skyline when he's flying overhead. His dragon form is so big and powerful that it's stated he could obliterate all of Kuri if he thrashes about in a drunken stupor while in his dragon form. Thus, without even trying to, he could destroy an entire region of a country. The insane durability of his mythical scales has also been noted multiple times. During chapter 923, Luffy hit Kaido many times with Haki enhanced attacks, and although they landed and looked painful, Kaido got up unscathed like absolutely nothing happened and went on to take out Luffy with one blow. It's also been said about Kaido's fruit that it gives Kaido access to more supernatural abilities than any other mythical zone we've seen so far, although I feel like the newest revealed mythical zone will probably give it a run for its money. One such ability is that he can create flame clouds that for all intents and purposes allow him to fly and can even lift up an entire island and turn it into a flying castle. Additionally, Kaido has been seen launching devastating fire blasts from his mouth in dragon mode and hybrid mode, and the list goes on. This truly godlike creature has turned his roar into lightning, he has released blades of wind strong enough to cut off a red scabbard's arm, and he's been able to summon multiple tornadoes, which led to Zoro labeling him a natural disaster. It seems like in close combat, Kaido's hybrid form is the most powerful since he saves that form for last. He's not unhurtable because attacks that can bypass his tough scales can cause harm, like advanced Haki infused attacks, the Ope Ope no Mi surgical techniques, and so on. After all, Odin did succeed in leaving a huge lasting scar on him. Still, there's no doubt that this is one of the best devil fruits of all. It even makes the sea, a usual devil fruit weakness, a non-issue because the dragon form can just fly over it. I think that's enough Kaido for this video because we do have others to cover, but let's just say this fruit did not disappoint in the least. Next, let's look at Sengoku, the former fleet admiral and living legend. He was one of the major figures back during Goldie Roger's time, along with Whitebeard, Shiki, and Garp. After a time skip, this dude is 79 years old. He has an especially interesting mythical zone fruit, namely the Hito Hito no Mi model Daibutsu, or the human fruit model Buddha. He has the ability to transform into a giant gold Buddha, and notably, back when I did the first mythical zone video, this was the only confirmed human mythical zone fruit. But we'll be adding 2 more newly confirmed human mythical zone fruits to the list this time around, but back to Sengoku for now. During chapter 578 at Marineford, we see his giant form launch shockwaves at Blackbeard. Blackbeard and his crew are shown to be rattled by the attack, whited out eyes, blood, and all that jazz. But obviously the attack doesn't keep Blackbeard down. Obviously Sengoku's size and physical power in this form are great, and although he failed to execute Ace with a punch thanks to Luffy's inflated stomach and a candle wall, his power still led to the execution platform collapsing. And that is it for Sengoku. We haven't seen much of his power in action, but what we have seen was no doubt epic. Definitely a power fitting for a former fleet admiral. Next up we have Yamato, Kaido's child and #1 Odin fan. As us weekly manga readers found out more or less recently, Yamato also has a mythical zone fruit, namely the Inu Inu no Mi model Okuchi no Makami, or the Dog Dog fruit model Okuchi no Makami. We're told that it is a rare mythical wolf and that it is a guardian spirit of Wano, and that makes it all the more painful for Kaido that Yamato is using it and claiming to be Odin. At first, it seemed like she might have eaten it by accident, but now, with the revelation that specifically zone fruits have a will of their own in chapter 1044, it's possible that the fruit, in a sense, chose Yamato because her beliefs complemented that of a Wano protector so well. The fruit lets Yamato turn into a wolf god pretty much, and we've seen the cool hybrid form clash with Kaido's own hybrid form. Not only is it clearly mythical and powerful, it's also very valuable because of its symbolic value for Wano specifically. It'll obviously be easier to rule a country if their guardian deity is supporting you rather than challenging your authority. Another hype fact is that Kaido says he worked hard to acquire that devil fruit, and whenever Yonko work hard to acquire a specific fruit, like Blackbeard with the Dark fruit and Shanks with the Gomu Gomu no Mi, it's always a sign that the fruit is an especially big deal. Keep in mind, this is not just a mythical zone, but a carnivorous mythical zone, making the fruit especially well suited for combat. And it would have to be special to allow one to repeatedly clash with the so-called strongest creature in the world in his OP hybrid form. We saw how quickly Kaido took out Luffy the first time, so the fact that Yamato can occupy the Yonko for so long while he's in his strongest form is no small feat. We've also seen Yamato fire a mouth blast called Namuji Glacier Fang at Kaido that was met with one of his own blast breaths, and the attacks cancelled each other out. It's an interesting attack name that lends a fire versus ice dynamic to the Kaido versus Yamato fight. Most recently, she saved the day by encasing the majority of Kaido's bombs in ice and thus preventing Kanjuro's fire from setting off a giant all-encompassing explosion. Yamato's mythical fruit did not disappoint, and as I've said many times before, I would love to have a mythical zone user like Yamato join the Straw Hat crew. And the new me is laughing at what the old me said because of course now I know something the me from the old Mythical Zones video didn't. Namely that we do have a mythical zone user on the crew already. But to quickly wrap up with Yamato first, I'd love her to join the crew, but my only concern is that it wouldn't make much sense symbolically for the guardian deity of Wano to leave the island. Especially if the will of zone fruits will continue to be an important factor in the story, it's likely that this mythical zone will push Yamato towards staying near Wano, so she can watch over it and protect it if the need arises. Anyway, speaking of a mythical zone user already on the Straw Hat crew, it's time to address what I've been dancing around throughout this video. Yes, the mythical zone user on the Straw Hat crew is none other than Luffy, as most of you probably already know. Long story short, the Gomu Gomu no Mi is actually not a Paramecia rubber fruit, but a mythical zone fruit. Its actual name is the human fruit mythical model Nika, and Nika was a sun god associated with liberation, so it makes sense that when Luffy awakens this fruit, his hair looks like it's made out of flames. And now we know that it turns white in color. Luffy calls this awakened form Gear 5, and I gotta say, it is very reminiscent of the Super Saiyan form. Nothing wrong with that, it's not a bad thing for it to be reminiscent of the Super Saiyan form. In fact, it's a nice homage to the very important Dragon Ball series that paved the way for many shonen like One Piece. Obviously, Luffy's fruit deserves its own video, and I can't do it justice here, but to summarize the gist of it, it's like the most special fruit. The exact word they used to describe it was ridiculous, but I still think special applies. As far as we know, it was the only one so dangerous and special that the government changed its name. It's associated with the Sun God Nika, with Joy Boy, and now with our main character. And the last time it awakened was more than 800 years ago. So since then, the users before Luffy only got to the rubber stage. That's a nice little aspect to it because yeah, Luffy still has a super special fruit, but at least he had to work hard in order to unlock its specialness. Many others had this godly fruit and never got to this point. The five elders further explained that they attempted to get the sun god fruit for 800 years, and now once did they succeed. It actively tried to escape their grasp, and as I already explained, that type of personification makes sense because specifically zone fruits are said to contain a will of their own. This suggests that the fruit probably picked Luffy similarly to how I believe Yamato's fruit probably picked her. It wasn't just Luffy happening to eat it, it probably called out to him on some level. So, what are some of the properties of this god fruit? We know the rubber part, but it's explained that after awakening, the rubbery body of the user gains greater physical strength and freedom. It is said by the 5 elders that there is no power more ridiculous, and in the official translation, we are given not 1 but 2 exclamation marks. It's portrayed as the biggest deal, and for good reason. It's also mentioned that the rubber body lets the user fight in whatever way he fancies, bringing smiles to the faces of the people. Another name for the Sun God Nika, we're told, is also the warrior of liberation. Now that's a big deal. The quote saying that the user of the fruit can fight in whatever way they fancy, it seems to imply that Luffy is only limited by his imagination when it comes to the way in which he fights, and the powers which he manifests. I won't go so far as to say that he can do anything yet, because some of this might be more legend than truth, but it'll be interesting to see how accurate the description is as the story progresses and Luffy continues to use his new awakened powers. So far we've seen Luffy use his awakened fruit to grab Kaido's dragon form like he was a mere snake toy and pull him up to the roof. He proceeded to practically enter a toon world. He spun Kaido around and slammed him into the ground over and over again. Kaido's eyes pop out like in Looney Tunes, suggesting that Luffy can make his opponents take on these exaggerated characteristics, not just himself. And we see that in a later chapter as Luffy blows himself up inside Kaido and Kaido stretches in super unnatural ways. We also see Luffy pull a Popeye and summon massive muscles all of a sudden. We also see him enter this insane god-sized mode where he becomes, as I previously alluded to, larger than Kaido himself and can use Kaido's dragon form as a skipping rope, which was hilarious. I mean, if he is strong enough to do all of this to Kaido, I doubt there's any opponent he can't lift. He also rubberized the ground and lifted it up to deflect a blast breath, showing his awakened powers can definitely affect his surroundings. So yeah, this was definitely an epic reveal and awakening, and I look forward to seeing all of the other details that continue to come out about Luffy's new powers, since there will no doubt be more and more details and upgrades coming out about the form until the story ends. The other mythical human fruit that I have to add is the Hito Hito no Mi model Onyudo, aka human fruit mythical model Onyudo. Onyudo translates to big monk and is a reference to a large monk yokai in Japanese folklore. The current user is Onimaru, a fox that used to be friends with master swordsman Shimotsuki Ushimaru, the Zoro lookalike. Like with Chopper, the fruit has given Onimaru, an animal, the ability to turn into a human, more or less, and in his giant monk form, where he towers over Zoro, he can speak as well. In his humanoid form, he's called Gyukimaru. As you'd expect, Onimaru's mythical zone comes with increased endurance, letting him make it through a lot, including arrows and even a bazooka. I sort of want to just say that all Mythical Zone users have mythical endurance, since it seems like they can bounce back after so much, all the more so now that our plot armored protagonist was revealed to be one as well. It makes sense that Onimaru's giant size comes with increased power as well. It's also noteworthy that Gyukimaru exchanged blows with Zoro in his yokai form. He's not stronger than Zoro, but still you need to be pretty skilled to not get overwhelmed immediately by our Zoro, so all in all, pretty impressive stuff for a fox. And I can just say that Onimaru feels like a really cool throwback to Chow Chow, the dog from Orange Town. Obviously, Oda gave the fox more development and a mythical zone fruit, but they have similar energies for sure. They just happen to be super protective over different things. So those are all the canon fruits, and I could stop the video right here, but for those who perfectly remember all of the details about all of the mythical zone users, and additionally remember everything they've read about them in Oda's question corners, I do have some bonus mythical zone fruits for you, so even you, the most hardcore of fans, just might learn something new about One Piece. Let's start the non-canon fruits off with the Bato Bato no Mi model vampire, aka the Bat Bat fruit model vampire. This fruit gives its user, Patrick Redfield, the ability to turn into a, you guessed it, vampire. This character was designed by Oda himself and serves as the main antagonist of the One Piece Unlimited World Red game. Again, this is non-canon, but according to Sengoku, Redfield was powerful enough to rival the Pirate King in his prime. With his unique mythical zone powers, he can sharpen his teeth and use them to, you guessed it, suck the blood out of his enemies. Take a second, go down to the comments and rank that vampire accent out of 10. Back to the video, his victims age quickly as a result of the blood sucking, while Redfield becomes stronger and through these means gains access to eternal youth. Next up we have the Tori Tori no Mi model Nue, aka the Bird Bird fruit model Nue. This fruit was featured in the One Piece art Nue, a series of artwork created for the One Piece X Kyoto event in 2017 that depicts a non-canon story of the Straw Hats in Wano. The fruit was eaten by Toratsugu, a resident of Wano, which is fitting because the Nue is a mythical Japanese yokai. It's a chimera beast that borrows different body parts from different animals. For instance, it has the face of a monkey, the body of a tiger, the mane of a lion, and a snake for a tail. When Toratsugu transforms into the yokai, he has the ability to fly, but is nevertheless overpowered relatively quickly by Luffy. Oda himself drew the climactic scene where Luffy battles the Nue. For the final Mythical Zone user, we turn to the same video game we already mentioned, specifically to One Piece Unlimited World Red again. In this video game, we also find out about Inu Inu no Mi model Bake Danuki, literally translated to Dog Dog Fruit model Monster Raccoon Dog. It allows its user to transform into a Tanuki monster, and it was eaten by, get this, a pen. Once again, Oda designed the Mythical Zone pen called Pato, and Pato belongs to the already mentioned Redfield. Pato may not be the most OP Mythical Zone user, but he's definitely interesting. He can use the tip of his tail to write, and furthermore, has the ability to transform leaves into objects and people by writing on them. And that is it, all 11 Mythical Zone users from One Piece updated, video games and art exhibitions included, and their powers explained. Thank you so much for staying tuned until the end, and let me know which Mythical Zone you'd want. It can be from this list, or you can get creative and pick from a myth we haven't seen yet in One Piece. If you did enjoy this video and want to keep them coming, the best thing you can do is channel Pirate King Within and smash that like button with no mercy. If you haven't, make this a video, subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications, or you will miss future One Piece videos and updates. And while you wait for the next video to drop, feel free to check out my huge and growing One Piece playlist that includes videos on all the fruits, Yonko, warlords, and much more. Link to that is in the description. And for all Mythical Zone fans out there, I recently came out with a new video about the Mythical Zone that I strongly believe Blackbeard has. I'll put it on screen here. Highly recommend that one. And until next time, see you, Space Cowboys.